Okay, thank you.
And maybe Fiona, you'll just give us a point if we are current, just that we're all clear.
Yeah, we've gone up to 32.
Yeah. Can you see my slides?
Yes, in presenter view at the moment, I think.
Oh, hang on.
If we could go to full slide view.
Is that better?
It's gone off screen.
No.
Oh, the joys of Zoom interaction with slides. Here we go. This looks better.
Yep.
There we go. Thank you very much indeed, Fiona. Well, we'll move straight on to the next slide, if I may, Fiona. And very much a welcome from me to this virtual AGM. The idea of the virtual AGM, of course, is that we're able to engage more members. And I'm glad that our number of participants is creeping up. We're going to go through the formalities of the AGM, and the chat box is your opportunity to add any questions, and at the end of each section of the AGM we'll try and sweep those up, and there will be an opportunity at the end for a more broad-ranging Q&A. Turning then to apologies, we have received those from Carolyn Strong, from John French, from Louise Ellis, and from colleagues at Solent University. Next, please. I'd like to introduce the members of our board to you. And before I do that, just to say my thanks to each and every one of my colleagues on the board for their service since the last AGM. It is a fantastically collegiate board, and I thank them for all of that. So as well as myself and Ian, your CEO, our other board members are Pete Smith from North East Scotland College, David Duncan, our treasurer from the University of Glasgow, Zoe Robinson from Keele, Louise Ellis, an independent consultant, Lawrence from South Devon College, Eunice, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Chester, and Professor John French from the University of Cambridge. Next, please. We also have our branch conveners. We have branches, as you know, in Ireland, in Scotland, and in Wales. And Damien from UCD is our Ireland branch convener. Carolyn from the University of Cardiff is the Wales branch convener. And Christine Calder from Dundee and Angus College is the recently appointed Scotland branch convener. So my thanks to them as well for the important work they do, making sure that the EAUC truly does cover the United Kingdom and Ireland. So our next slide, please. Colleagues, you may remember that at the last AGM, we introduced associate board members, and I'm delighted that Neelam and Romas were our first associate board members. That first year of operation has now come to an end, and we're going to review where we go next with this. But Romas and Neelam have made a great contribution helping the board with many of the deliberations we've engaged in over the last year. And again, I extend my thanks to all our board members. Next slide, please. So we have the agenda now in front of you. So the meeting seeks to approve the minutes from the 2021 AGM, note the retirement of board members, to announce the outcome of the election, and then to all of the important matters that are contained within the annual report and accounts, and then to provide an update on where we go next with the recruitment process for a chief executive officer. And at the end, we'll have a more general Q&A. So I think then let's move on to our next slide. So these minutes following the last AGM, there were no outstanding issues and no matters arising. And the matters that were contained in it that have continued over this year, we will be updating as we go through the rest of the meeting. So I would ask you colleagues, unless there are any comments, that we simply agree these minutes as a true and accurate record of the AGM in 2021. I'll pause for a moment.
Jim, just to confirm that we are now quorate.
That's lovely. So not only can we do that, but we can do that as a quorate AGM. Fantastic. Thank you for alerting me to that. I haven't seen any hands or any addition to the chat. So can we now take those minutes as approved? Moving on to our next slide. We had 2 trustee retirements in between this AGM and the last. Karen Morgan, who, as you see, resigned on the 16th of March, and John Wincott, who was the Scotland branch convener, came to the end of his period of office as the convener and resigned as of the 31st of March. Scotland branch appointed Christine as the new branch convener and came into role on the 31st of March. And of course, the branches appoint their conveners and they're automatically added to the board as directors and trustees. Moving into the next slide, please. Retiring at this AGM is Peter Smith from North East Scotland College. I'd like to extend my great thanks to Pete for his service on the board. He's been an excellent colleague and I wish him very well in his new role at Borders College. May I also say to all the retiring members, to John and to Karen, thank you for your service to the board of the EAUC. You have been excellent colleagues as well. It is always sad when our board members reach the point of retirement, and I wish each and every one of them great success in the next steps. Shall we move on to the next slide? We now come.
No, we do have flowers sometimes in our forest.
Okay, could I ask that whoever's come on put themselves on mute, please? Thank you.
Yeah.
It's trying to get that image of what the forest looks like and what is possible.
Sorry, I'm hearing a lot of background noise.
The university thought about.
Could my colleague who is speaking to their colleagues, I'm picking it up, as is the rest of the AGM, and could you mute, please? Thank you. So we now come to the resolution. Due to the retirement of 2 board members, we have an election of 2 members who will act as company directors and charity trustees. The voting has been online, undertaken by Civica, entirely independent of us, and we can all be confident in the process that's been undertaken. We requested at least 1 position came from further education and 1 position to have financial experience at a senior level. As it turned out, all 4 candidates that came forward were from further education and all had senior financial level experience. So the board approved to have 1 resolution to cover the vacancies. The 4 applications that you see on screen were received, and the 2 members, the 2 candidates who received the highest number of votes are to be elected to the board. I'm very pleased to announce that Lindsay Johnson and Luke Rake have been appointed to the board, having been elected by our members. So my great congratulations to Lindsay and to Luke. And I'd like to thank Matthew and Ricky for standing. So Lindsay and Luke have been elected to the board. And so we look forward to welcoming you to the board, and I look forward to having an induction conversation with you both in due course. So with that, colleagues, unless there are any specific questions about any element that I have covered, I've not seen anything in the chat. Fiona, have I missed anything?
No.
In which case, I'm going to hand over to our CEO, to Ian, to take us through the annual report. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Just checking you can hear me okay. This is my 16th annual report and my last, so I'm delighted to share it with you. And you know, in the face of the pandemic, I think things have gone really well. I think a reset button has been pressed in society, and EAEUC were part of that. So it's been a really challenging year, but actually with prudence and foresight and adaptability and a great team, be that the board, be that the staff, we've done really well. And I'm so delighted that I would say the headline figure is that we've had, sorry?
Carry on.
Thanks. Just our headline figure is that we've had 95% retention through this year, which I just think is delightful. Plus 26 new members. You know, to get new members and 26 of them in the last year of upheaval is tremendous. So most of those actually come from FE. So with our new board members and our existing FE representatives on the board, it's a really exciting time for FE, and the EAEC will utterly be with you. So and to have a total number of over 7,000 member contacts now. You know, with the staff, we were looking backwards earlier in the week, and we had 2,500 10 years ago, and now look at over 7,000. And it just shows the depth and breadth of sustainability as we really get to the heart of why a college or a university exists, and that has to be our objective, really aligning sustainability and institutional strategy. So I think next slide, please, Fiona. And I mean, this strategy has actually been around since 2017, and it's done us proud. It really has, and it continues to be a real clarion call and mechanism to help us focus. My view would be, my parting view would be that it's time to look again at it. It's not serving us badly, but the world has changed, and there are new opportunities and challenges as sustainability becomes more complex, but it also becomes more mainstreamed to a degree, I could risk saying. But I'll actually just use the strategy, the 6 key elements of the strategy as a sort of reporting tool now. But my view is it's time to look again. The world has changed. I'm leaving, and partly leaving to make space for new leadership, new thinking, the second curve, if you're a Charles Handy fan, in a very different world, an exciting world of opportunity. But do we have the clarity to take us there? But we really certainly did this year. So next slide, please, Fiona. There's going to be an awful lot that I'm not going to be able to cover, but the report, which Natalie, in at the deep end, as new member of staff, has designed so well. So thank you, Natalie, for this. But Fiona, thank you for leading on the drafting of it as well with her. Too much to say. Really delighted that out of the pandemic, we were able to support SOS and change agents with Kickstarters. And I'm really delighted that we're actually employing in August one of those Kickstarters onto the staff. So there's such talent out there, such ability. It just needs the opportunity. And we need to look harder at how we bring different mindsets, different backgrounds, greater diversity into the sector. And that's part of this. And, you know, the pandemic was a real call to the world is changing, my role is changing, I'm busier than ever. Do I have the leadership, understanding, skills to take me there? And I'm so pleased that Emerging Leaders was so well subscribed, but actually the Leadership Academy was oversubscribed. We ran 2 cohorts, which is great endorsement of the work led by Wendy Purcell and others. So really thankful to her. But this is a real time for stretching what leadership in your college or university for sustainability looks like. So do come on one of those programs. I'm really keen, you know, that they were so successful online, but I'm really keen that we get people together physically soon as well. Next slide, please, Fiona. And advocacy, you know, EAUC's voice has become more confident and clear than ever, and rightly so. And not just, you know, take this the right way, not just speaking for members, but really taking a leadership role in the sector. And the Climate Commission was utterly at that. And the Climate Commission had a key year this year, bringing key leadership entities of the sector together across the UK, across FHHE, and with students at the heart, and really facilitating that dialogue to build a clear vision of climate commitment and action for the sector. And that extended internationally as well, becoming a recognized, you know, consultative status member for UN system. And then, you know, in Scotland at COP26, having a delegation, I think it was about 18 people, and they included students as well, and really giving that space to academics, board members, staff members, and students was really, really powerful and exciting. And we continue that legacy with Race to Zero. And if you haven't signed Race to Zero, you know, you're missing out. It's a simple program, but really profound. And you'll be joining 1,100 other institutions around the world. And we find new ways to bring together insights and learning from across the world to benefit EAUC members. And really speaking confidently and nudging the UK government and the Department for Education in particular. Yeah, the strategy, it could be stronger, and that is our commitment to making it stronger. But that unit exists on climate and sustainability in Department for Education, so we're really going to push that harder. Next slide, please, Fiona. And I talked about, you know, bringing different voices and insights from around the world. And last year, or this year, we're talking about, we had our virtual climate. And it's so empowering to be hearing voices that are often not heard, not just in the UK, but internationally, across Africa, across India, etc. And there's actually going to be the next international virtual climate in partnership with UNEP, United Nations Environment, and Tongji University in China. And EAUC is leading, is secretarying and hosting this event. It's on the 5th of July. And they've got Alex Sharma and all there. So really, really do be part of that. It's free. So just sign up and join it, because we mustn't be insular in this world. We must always be hungry for insight as to how others are leading sustainability. Some take a very social angle, some take a very ethical angle, some take a very environmental angle. None of us have the monopoly on how to do this. We're all learning. So do please come to that. And the Green Gown Awards are such a space for giving recognition to your leadership, your excellence, but also that from around the world. And to have 90 finalists is growing in strength to strength. And then on a very practical level, you know, do we have the carbon literacy understanding in our college, in our institution? And EAUC itself is a platinum carbon literate organization, but 4 of our staff are trained. So that's a really heavily subscribed program. And we're keen to support you with delivering that to your team. So do have a look at that if you haven't already. Next slide, please, Fiona. And to see such real innovation in the AUC, you know, on the back of the COP26 universities network briefing on offsetting, we held on to those amazing academics and specialists in offsetting, but it's a murky space, isn't it? It's an area that we're looking at more and more, we're having to look at more and more, but it can't be our first approach to reducing our emissions, can it? So creating a really amazing principled, but also academic and research-oriented approach to offsetting through the Carbon Coalition, and bringing together the very first pioneering institutions who are going, okay, let's combine our collective purchasing power and our thinking and our approach to offsetting and build the coalition. So that's been really good. Actually, the EAUC offset its own emissions this year through this as well. So have a look at that. I'm really delighted also, after a bit of a sort of a impasse on software hosting, that the Sustainability Leadership Scorecard will be relaunched with AUD. That's a really powerful whole institution approach. So, you know, you can do the scorecard in a couple of days with some key colleagues to do a quick and dirty audit of how your institution is performing, and that sets you on a target setting and a trajectory of progress. So do have a look at that. Next slide, please, Fiona. And you know, one of the light bulb moments some years ago when creating our strategy was when we were thinking, oh my goodness, EAUC, we've only got a small number of staff. But actually, if we get the relationship right with you, our members, and there's now over 7,000 of you, we are such a powerful, insightful, skilled organization. So, you know, we're giving recognition through our fellowships, through the tens of you who contribute your time, you know, as conveners, as TSN coordinators, etc. It's really critical. It adds up a lot. You know, we've got a figure there of £140,000 equivalent and 54 volunteer spaces. So it's really critical. But we recognise that we're not alone, and we recognise that the sector is evolving, and new entities are coming in to the space, particularly championing civics like the Civic University Network, which we should mention, or the Responsible Investment University Group. But we work really, really closely. We're a partnership organisation. Sustainability isn't something we do in isolation. We will fail if we try. But to work with HEPA, Healthy Universities, RAP, Aldersgate, you know, it's really, really important stuff. So building that connection, and you know, having, I think it's over 205 strategic partners now. We've really got to be connecting and collaborating. I think that's a critical agenda that I really hope the EAUC will continue to triumph and lead on. How do we have greater cross-organizational impact? Okay, next slide. Thanks, Fiona. The Accord goes from strength to strength, and that's such a great space to really show what we're doing in our college or institution, or higher education institution, to embed the SDGs and take that to the UN. And actually, the next report will be out early July for the higher level political forum, which is on the 6th of July. And following that, there will be the awarding of the International Green Gown Awards, which I've already mentioned. Really delighted we've got a global sponsor as well for the Green Gowns to really help us just celebrate, but more importantly, scale the global insight which we're getting. And we do this to benefit our members, our 7,000 UK and Ireland members. Next slide, please, Fiona. Scotland continues to rule the waves, and such a great team up there. And before going into any detail, just recognising Becca Petford, who has been the manager of Scotland with Matt, and Becca's moving on to a really exciting community active role now. So we wish her well, but thank her for her work over the last 6 years in leading the Scotland programme and co-leading it now with Matt. A great team up there. And one of the critical successes has been on supporting universities and colleges in Scotland with improving the quality of their data, with their with how they report to the public bodies reporting, because it's mandatory up there, and it could well happen in Wales, that's well on its way, and across the rest of the UK. So we need to preempt that, and that's why our work with the Department for Education is so critical, to have a consistent approach to scoping and calculating our emissions. But Scotland has led the insight to this work and deserved the Green Apple Award. So a huge thank you to the Scotland team as we come to the end of this phase of work. It finishes next year, just around Easter. And hopefully onwards and upwards. So really impressive work at Scotland. Thank you to all of you who are part of it. Next slide, Fiona. I think this is my last slide, actually, and obviously thanks to the pandemic, there were good sides to it, honestly. Our emissions were reduced, and you know, our EAUC already operated very remotely and virtually. We embraced the technology, but you know, all of our mindsets have profoundly changed as to how we can communicate, how we can learn, how we can meet. And that's reflected in our emissions, which, as I said, were offset through the Carbon Coalition. So a huge thanks to the team, Oni and Fiona and others for actually calculating this. Jim, I think that's the last slide for me. Over to David Duncan, our treasurer, for the accounts.
Thanks very much, Ian. If we could maybe just move on to the next slide. So 2021 was a difficult year for EAUC from a financial perspective. I mean, the mainstay of our income is two sources. One is member subscriptions, which, as Jim and Ian have said, held up extremely well through the year, in fact, got stronger. And on the other hand, people paying fees to come to face-to-face events. And of course, face-to-face events were decimated last year, as we all know, and that has led to a loss for the year, as it says there, of 17,443. I should say the board has been very laser focused on this issue of the financial sustainability of the association, and has worked very hard to try to broaden out the sources of income and to make it more sustainable going forward. So we've been looking at different interventions by developing new services for members, things like a carbon offsetting service, consultancy on science-based targets, and also attracting other grants from major players. And in fact, we've had a couple of recent signal successes in terms of grant getting from major national bodies. So I think the future looks reasonably rosy despite these numbers here. Currently, we're projecting a small surplus, something like 6-7K for 2022, and the projections for 2023 and beyond, as we return to more face-to-face events, should also strengthen. And as I say, those new income streams, as they come on and make a contribution to our financial bottom line, I think will help us. If you just want to move on to the next slide, Fiona, thanks. As it says there, as that slide indicates, last year, a big portion of our income was from membership, but nothing at all really from the annual conference and events, and that's really where the gap arose. But nonetheless, I think a strong position going forward. We'd like to generate a reasonable but not a huge surplus for the association annually, so that we've got money to reinvest in new initiatives going forward. And I think we're probably pretty well placed to do that over the next couple of years. And then as the last slide, sorry, the previous one says there, the good news is we've still got substantial reserves, which allow us to say that we're a going concern, and the accounts have been audited successfully. That's it from me. Thanks, Jim.
David, thank you very much. Just to echo your points there, the board does keep a laser focus on the financial sustainability, and there are really encouraging things that David has been reported there. We can look forward with confidence, but we will not take our eyes off the financial sustainability of the organisation. But we do feel confident, and we are moving forward to the recruitment of a new Chief Executive Officer. As you've heard, Ian is leaving us at the end of this month. 16 years as Chief Executive Officer. But before that, way back in 1996, instrumental in the establishment of a voluntary organisation that in, I think, 2004 transitioned to be the charitable company that the EAUC is today. Ian was, I believe, the first member of staff of the EAUC. So how do you begin to recognise the commitment, the passion, the intellectual effort, the leadership? Well, that is where the EAUC is today because of all of those things that Ian has brought to the organisation. And I thank you, Ian, very much indeed for all that you have done. And I will ask our colleagues if we could show our appreciation for Ian by virtual hand clappings or very loud cheers if you want to go online. But Ian, thank you so much for all that you have done. It's been a fantastic service, and we wish you the very best wherever you go next. And I'm sure that Uganda will be part of wherever you do go. So we move on. We will commence our recruitment process in September of this year. All other things being favourable, we hope to have a CEO in place by the start of calendar year 22. In the interim, I am delighted that Fiona has agreed to step up into the interim CEO role until such time as a permanent replacement is in post. Fiona, the board has absolute confidence in you, and I thank you so much for agreeing to step up. Hard act to follow, but I am sure that you will demonstrate all those characteristics that Ian has brought to the organisation and add your own unique set of characteristics. So thank you so much. Colleagues on this AGM call, I would ask you, when the advert is published for the role, that we can rely upon you to help promote the opportunity. We hope that we will get this advert to a very large field, and that we will be inundated with high quality applications, and we ask for your help in that. And I think it moves us on to questions, Fiona. Are there any that...
We haven't got any in the chat, but if anyone does want to raise their hands or unmute themselves.
Yes, please unmute yourself. David Duncan, I see your hand.
Yes, it's not, I suppose it is a question, but it was just to say, I suppose if anybody in the network is potentially interested in the chief exec position, or knows somebody who might be, then I guess they should have a chat with you, Jim, just to get some informal background on it. Would that be all right?
Absolutely, David. As part of that process, there will be the opportunity for that informal conversation, not just necessarily with me, but with other board members as may be appropriate. But yes, the more information that we as a board can help a prospective applicant with, to help them understand the role and the challenge that is embedded in the role, then the better they will be in presenting themselves as a candidate. So rest assured, we will have, I hope, lots of conversations with prospective applicants. I cannot see any other hands, but do please shout out if I'm missing you. But I think that may be the end of the Q&A. If there is nothing else, I think then it calls upon me to draw us to a conclusion. I'd like to just recapitulate a couple of points. I'd like to congratulate again Luke and Lindsay on their election to the board. Congratulations. Yes, Ian, thank you for leading the clapping there. We very much look forward to welcoming you to the board. I'd like to thank again our retiring members, those retiring today, Pete, but also Karen and John, who retired earlier in the year. Thank you for all your service again. Rebecca, thank you for making the Scotland office such a fantastic office and with wonderful outcomes. We will miss you. And Ian, well, I've said all that can be said, and I'm sure colleagues will want to add their congratulations to you, but thank you again for all, Mr. EAUC. And to you, my AGM attendees, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for your engagement and your support for the organisation. It is a member organisation, and I thank all of you for that. And please spread the word. There are those who haven't yet joined the EAUC, but you can be advocates for the work of the organisation and encourage others to join you in making the 7,000 contacts the EAUC currently has into something that moves perhaps, let's say 10,000 by the next AGM, but don't hold me to that, but hold yourselves to it, because I can't do it on my own. And with that, and unless Fiona, there is anything I have omitted, I do believe we have come to the end of the AGM. So thank you, colleagues, and I'm delighted that we were quorate. So enjoy the rest of your day. We have finished rather earlier than the timing of the AGM might have suggested. So go and have some coffee and catch up on all those emails that are bound to have arrived in your inbox as we've been.
Jim, I'm just going to jump in and say a quick thank you to you for your chairing. It's superb. But just a quick signing off. So, and just noting Joe Chamberlain's new role, which is really brilliant. So, and actually just little things, because I know Fiona's been around almost as long as me, but I do predate, and it was contributions like Joanna's that got us from being a voluntary organization to being a registered charity and company. And the work that she did was astounding. So, and I'm just using that as a little insight to what's got us here, and it's people like you on this call, and it's why I leave so positively. So knowing, having nurtured this through, and as Fiona will tell, being very frustrated at times, but actually the agenda is in a very new, exciting space. We are sitting at such a point of opportunity in climate thinking, in climate education, in aligning sustainability with institutional strategy. So I as the corny song says, if you love someone, set them free. And I utterly set EAUC free to be this amazing, talented, innovative, risk-taking, boundary-breaking, agenda-shaping, sector-shaping entity, which it now is, and it's because of everyone on this call, but the thousands that have gone before us, and the tens of staff. So a big thank you, but it's a team sport, this is, and I really look forward to watching what happens next, and I'm so pleased with Fiona's stepping up and the board. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Ian. Lots of clapping going on there. That's lovely to see. So I think, colleagues, we are done. Thank you again.
Thanks, Jim.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye now.
Hi, everyone.